at the St Stephen's entrance at the end of Westminster Hall. This is the main memorial to members and staff of both houses, including police officers who died in both World Wars. All are welcome to attend. I would also like to draw to the attention of the House the retirement of Peter Barrett. Peter served the House of Commons for over 32 years, including 10 years as the Speaker's Assistant Secretary and 8 years as the Speaker's Secretary. His commitment, loyalty, professionalism will be missed, and I'd like to thank him personally for everything he did during the time here. I'm sure the whole House will agree with me when I say that we wish him well and all the very best for the future. Right, let us start with an urgent question. Alison Thewlis.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. To ask if the Home Secretary will make a statement on the evacuation of Afghans from Pakistan.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and thank you for the question. The Government has reacted decisively and swiftly to relocate people to safety in the United Kingdom following the collapse of Afghanistan the year before last. The UK Government remains committed to relocating eligible Afghans and their families under the ARAP and ACRS schemes, and we will continue to honour this promise. The Government's policy, rightly, was to ensure that eligible Afghan families had secured accommodation in the UK before travel was facilitated for their relocation. We wanted to give them the best possible start to their new lives, to provide the best value for money for the taxpayer, and ensure Afghans were integrated into UK society in the best manner available. However, developments in the region have impacted our security assessments and previous assumptions. This has led to the Government removing the need for settled accommodation for individuals eligible under ARAP prior to relocation to the United Kingdom. The safety and security of ARAP-eligible Afghans has always been of paramount importance, and we make no apology at all for changing the policy to react to the changing context. The Foreign Office and the Ministry of Defence continue to work to ensure that eligible individuals under the ARAP and ACR scheme are supported in Pakistan. The safety and security of ARAP and ACRS eligible Afghans is paramount in our minds. The Ministry of Defence continue to monitor the security assessments in that country. But following this cross-government decision, the Prime Minister has asked me to coordinate a cross-government support the MOD in developing a new relocations plan for ARAP-eligible persons. As you know, previously, the policy was that only those who had secured accommodation in the United Kingdom would travel to the United Kingdom. We are changing that policy as a result of changing conditions on the ground. The Ministry of Defence has worked hard to stand up over a total of 700 service family accommodation for mixed purposes or transitory and settled accommodation. I pay tribute to the Minister for the Armed Forces for his work on this. Our new plans will see approximately 2,800 ARAP entitled personnel move from Pakistan to the United Kingdom by the end of December 2023. Entitled personnel may move straight into settled accommodation on the Ministry of Defence. Where SFA is unavailable, families will also move into transitional accommodation as the first step. Where SFA is not suited to the needs of ARAP entitled personnel, alternative accommodation will be procured. This Prime Minister and this Government is determined to see through our contributions to our commitments to those who served with UK forces in Afghanistan, and I commend this statement to the House.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and thank you for granting this urgent question. I'm afraid what the Minister has said today really does give no reassurance whatsoever to the constituents that have contacted me in a state of extreme panic over the last few weeks, and MPs in this House have had no information on what is currently happening. It's been clear for some time that Pakistan has been aiming to expel Afghans that have arrived there for safety back to Afghanistan. I've been trying to get clarity on how many of those people in Pakistan that we have a duty and an obligation to, people who are waiting for the UK government to simply process their paperwork so that they can leave and come to their families here in the UK. I have not had those answers from the Minister. One constituent who contacted me has her sister and 5 children. They have been threatened with imprisonment in Pakistan if they do not leave. Her other family members, her parents, her brother and her cousin, have been returned to Afghanistan and she can't contact them. She doesn't know where they are or what has happened to them. And given that they fled from the Taliban in the first place, she's terrified for them. She's been given very unclear advice from the UK officials in Pakistan as to what exactly they're entitled to and whether or not they will be able to get on a flight at all. Another constituent, a gentleman, contacted me on the 25th of October after seeing in the news that there would be charter flights coming from Pakistan with Afghans who have been processed. He has been trying to get answers from on the status of his family, whether they have valid applications, whether they can get in a plane, whether they can come to safety with him. And this is a gentleman who was stuck there at the fall of Afghanistan with his family and is extremely distressed about this situation. Again, I've been asking questions of various government departments and I've had no answers whatsoever. What advice should I give to this constituent? There's been no updates to MPs, despite there being reports in the news of charter flights, of people coming. But we have heard in the news also that those who are entitled, who are in Islamabad, have been warned by the FCDO to hide indoors. The British High Commission has apparently warned those in hotels in Islamabad not to go outside due to the risk of arrest and deportation. So can I ask him, who is eligible for these charter flights? Is it people on the ARAP and ACRS schemes? Is it people who have valid family reunion paperwork? Is it people who are still waiting for that paperwork to be done? Because we don't know, and I've had constituents where 4 out of 5 have been processed and 1 has been left behind. So can he tell us exactly how many people are waiting for the UK government to process their paperwork in Pakistan so they can finally get to safety in the UK? We have a duty to these Afghans and we are failing them yet again.
So I must be completely clear with the House. This is not an issue of delaying paperwork. There was the situation where Afghanistan collapsed. The nation conducted an operation op pitting to retrieve Afghans out of Kabul and bring them to the United Kingdom. They went into hotel accommodation because we did not have enough housing. That was the right thing to do at the time. Since then, it has become clear that hotel accommodation is entirely unsuitable for long periods of time for these families, and therefore they were held in Pakistan, rightly so. The situation has now changed in Pakistan, and we are now going to accelerate that process again and get them into SFA accommodation into the UK so that we're seeing through our duties. I don't want to see anybody detained or deported from Afghanistan who's entitled to be in the United Kingdom, and I'm going to work to achieve that outcome. But I would caution against sort of spreading rumours of things that I am not seeing on the ground that are going on in that population, and it's an extremely challenging environment. But at the end of the day, we have a commitment to these people, and I'm determined to see this through. And I have been here before with the Afghan population in hotels, and I've had the same questions and the same demands and the same allegations that we wouldn't be successful, and we were successful. So I hear my honourable friends' questions. I really do. The situation has changed. We have now changed our response. And we will relocate these people back to the United Kingdom.
Tim Lawton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, it's reassuring to hear that this is not a paperwork issue, because it's now been more than 2 years since that fateful airlift. But it's also particularly problematic with Afghan families finding accommodation, because they tended to be large families as well, and the accommodation wasn't available. What I'm more worried about is this change of policy in Pakistan and worrying influences on and within the Pakistan government. So what conversations are our ministers having with their government about the aid which we pay to Pakistan, some of which is to cover the many Afghan refugees who fled into Pakistan, to keep them there safely, to make sure they are now not put in danger until we can take those to whom we have a duty to take. Surely that should be the subject of conversations with the Pakistan government.
So my honourable friend is absolutely right in that those conversations are paramount in our minds at the moment to make sure that this shift in policy from the Pakistani government towards Afghans, that we drive through protection for those who we have a duty to, who have been approved to come to the United Kingdom, and make sure that we can continue that. We can continue our existing agreements with Pakistan. The Foreign Office is working hard to do that, and my hope is that now we have an accelerated plan that those who are in Pakistan, who are eligible to be in the United Kingdom, are protected from any of those policies, and we look after them and we bring them back to the UK, as has been our promise from the start.
Shadow Minister Stephen McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We owe many Afghans a debt of gratitude for supporting British aims in Afghanistan. And in the summer and autumn of 2021, the UK government rightly promised to honour this debt by offering these Afghans resettlement in the UK. But the government's Operation Warm Welcome fast became Operation Cold Shoulder. Of those Afghans who made it to Britain, 8,000 were crammed into hotels over a 2-year period and then evicted without consultation with local authorities, leaving many Afghan families facing homelessness this winter. But worse still, the Prime Minister last November personally gave instructions to ministers that no more flights should be chartered from Pakistan to bring Afghans who have a right to resettlement here to the UK, despite more than 3,000 Afghan refugees being stuck in hotels in Pakistan when the British government had promised these very individuals refuge in the UK through the ARAP and ACRS schemes. Keeping these loyal to Britain Afghans in limbo was shameful enough in itself. But what's even more disgraceful is that the Prime Minister only changed tack when the Pakistani government started threatening to send these loyal to Britain Afghans back to Afghanistan to meet their fate at the hands of the Taliban. In short, the government of Pakistan has strong-armed our weak Prime Minister into delivering something that it was our duty as a country to deliver in the first place, a truly shameful and humiliating state of affairs. So what we now need to know from the Minister is, how many flights has he chartered and where will these flights be running from until? What assurance has he received from the Pakistani government that they will extend the deadline for Afghans who are going to be expelled back into Afghanistan until after all the UK flights have been completed? Is the government aware of any cases of Afghans who are eligible under ARAP or ACRS who have been forcibly returned back into Afghanistan from Pakistan? If so, what steps is the government taking to bring those people to safety as a matter of urgency? And finally, what progress has he made in clearing the record-high asylum backlog and securing accommodation for these Afghans who we desperately need to get out of Pakistan as rapidly and urgently as possible?
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's very hard to take my honourable friend seriously when he comes out with statements that are demonstrably untrue. And I know he wouldn't want to mislead the House, but this terms of engaging local authorities, I literally drove around the local authorities engaging them, right? So this stuff is just, as he well knows, not correct. Now, I'm going to also take no lessons from anybody about how we feel towards this Afghan cohort, having served there myself, but then during the summer driven around every single hotel to go and visit Afghans to make sure that none of them slept homeless and to make sure personally that we saw through their duty to Afghanistan. So, look, clearly I'm not going to go into the details of which flights are taking off when, but this Prime Minister and this government is absolutely clear that as that situation has changed, we are seeking to get guarantees from the Pakistan government that those who are entitled to be here will not be deported from that country. And if that does happen, he can recall me to this House and I will